Everybody, it's Rachel Tetlow here from Pro Manchester. Just want to say thank you for joining us for this webinar today about how to write an award-winning MiMA entry. We'll get started in a couple of minutes. We'll just wait till everybody gets signed in. And if I could ask you to keep yourselves muted throughout the meeting, that would be wonderful. We usually say cameras off as well. So if you could do that, that would be brilliant. Thank you.
Is it that you build systems? Not so I can build like.
Just give it till 12:02 and then we'll get going.
Hey.
Okay, brilliant. So without further ado, I shall hand over to the chair of our Future Pro committee, Herbie, and I'll let him introduce his guests.
Hi everyone, just want to say a massive thank you for attending today's webinar about an award-winning MiMA nomination. So for anyone who doesn't know, MiMA is the largest celebration in possibly the UK, definitely the north of England, of young professionals. We have over 1,000, or around 1,000 in attendance, with a wide range of award categories available for people to submit an award to. Yeah, it's a great event for anyone who's not been before. There's food, drinks, entertainment, singers. Yeah, wonderful. And obviously, off the back of it, getting nominated for an award results in a high caliber of sort of recognition from a lot of companies and a lot of people across Manchester. It's done by Future Pro, which I, as mentioned by Rachel, am the chair of. Future Pro put on a lot of events throughout the year that networking, educational, feast clubs, lots more to come as well. But we have a lot of events throughout the year to do with networking and education and things like that. So check us out. We'll be a lot more active on social media in the coming weeks and months. So yeah, watch this space for that. But yeah, now over to introductions. We have a great panel, 2 previous winners of awards, and then we have 2 of the expert judges with us as well. First, I'll hand over to Paris for an introduction.
Sorry, I was on mute. Hi everyone, I'm Paris Hallam. I work at the Bank of New York. I've been there for just over 10 years. I celebrated my 10-year anniversary this week. I currently work in the management office as our senior site coordinator. So a bit of everything really, coordinating events, working with our local community, our business community. We do a lot of events with Manchester. We set the strategy for the site, and we work globally with our other locations. So yeah, a bit of a mixture of a role. Before that was in operations, and I am one of the award winners. So I won the Business Support Professional of the Year in February. So I was really proud to get that award and really happy to be on the panel today.
Thanks, Paris. Then we'll move over to one of the judges, Sarah.
Hi there. Hello, everybody. Yes, my name is Sarah Clemson. I'm a founder and director of Summit. We are guided business growth, basically a strategic business, marketing and creative consultancy, partly based in Manchester and in Lancashire. I have been a judge 2-3 years, and I think I've done 2 awards each year. So I have done a great many interviews and read hundreds of submissions. So hopefully I can help. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. And then another one of the award winners, Stacey.
Hi, thank you for having me. Stacey. I'm the sales manager for Dakota Manchester. Dakota Hotels is a luxury boutique hotel group. We comprise of 5 properties. I take care of the sales function within the hotel, so looking after a lot of our corporate clientele, driving growth through the sales strategy, seeking new areas of opportunity for business. I was fortunate enough to win the 2024 award for Sales and Business Development Professional of the Year this year. And happy to help any way I can for this year's nominees.
Thanks very much, Stacey. And then last but not least, we've got another one of the judges, Susie. Thanks,
Hi
Susie.
there. Thanks, Herbie. Thanks, it's great to be here. Yeah, my name's Susie Power. I'm a relationship director at Lloyds Bank. Sit in the mid-corporate team, so I look after a portfolio of around 30, 40 clients in the 25 to 100 million turnover space. Prior to that, I was at Deloitte for 10 years, so I'm a chartered accountant, so a lot of experience in the professional services industry. Lloyds has obviously been involved with Pro Manchester and Made in Manchester Awards for some time, and last year I was lucky enough to be a judge on the business development sales professional panel and the recruitment talent professional panel, which is so fantastic, so great to see the talent in Manchester. Yeah, and I'm really pleased to support the MiMA Awards this year.
Thanks, Susie, and to all of the panel for today. Looks like we're in for a good one. Just to circle back, my name's Herbie Hursthouse. I'm the host for today, and I'm the chair of Future Pro. Yeah, if anyone wants to reach out after this and have a little bit more of an incline as to what Future Pro do, more than happy to run over that with you. Yeah, so we'll start the questions now. I'm going to direct the first question towards the judges. We'll start off with Susie. So what key qualities or characteristics do you look for in a standout nomination?
I'm just going to refer to Sarah because I think she's covered.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that was me. Don't worry. For me, the absolute key is when you appreciate that a judge will probably read, say, average 20 per submission per award. You're really looking to stand out. So the opening sentence and paragraph to me are absolutely key. Just for setting the scene, just for getting that initial appreciation of where you are and what you do. I think it's really, really helpful not to presume we know your role, the company, the nature of the work. So some general things, but that can come in slightly after. I think the biggest thing is to almost treat it like a press release with a killer headline, a killer sentence, and a killer first paragraph. And I think the first paragraph could be a real statement, an overarching statement of what you've achieved in the last year or the last period of time. In your role, you were here at A and now you're here at B. So it's that transformation and the impact that we would really like to see. That in your role, you have created transformation and made a difference to your organization, your department. So it's a real transformation piece. I think as a word of caution, don't just describe your day job. Given that you've been shortlisted, nominated, or somebody's written in for you, do not just describe your day job, because the presumption is that you're all exceptional at your day job. So that's a given. What we need to hear is what you do above and beyond. So it's your contribution, your ideas, campaign, not necessarily campaigns, but strategic things you've brought to the table, things you've created, things you've run, managed, what the results of that project or work is, how you've widened your role, gone above and beyond, gone the extra mile. So I think it's the point of difference that we're really looking for. If you imagine the caliber is going to be extremely high. So it's not just I'm good at my job. I can honestly tell you, I read loads of them and you're left thinking, well, that's your day job. What's different, if you know what I mean? So really, really examine that. and perhaps ask your colleagues to help give you an external view, which is probably which is exactly what we'll have when we're reading it, an external view of what you've achieved.
Yeah, I agree, Sarah. Definitely, just having that standout sort of punchline is great to grab the attention from the get go. Moving on to a question for Stacey. Were there any challenges you faced when writing your nomination, and how did you overcome them, if there were?
Yeah, I think one of the more obvious ones that might stand out is being in the uncomfortable space of talking about your own achievements and being, okay with that. I think there's always a bit of a natural comfortability where you feel like you may be entering you don't want to sound like you're bragging or anything, like that. So for me initially, putting that together was a bit of a challenge for me. But I think it was just sort of coming back to why, you were here, why you're participating in this, why it's important, and allowing your sort of passion for what you're doing to come through authentically and not worry too much about anything like that. And I think I'm often also someone who can really potentially overthink their responses to things and want it to be, the best it possibly can be. So I think overcoming that was coming back to the question at hand specifically each time and making sure it was always redirected to answering that question to the best of my ability and not letting it go off too far in another direction. Because when you are talking about, your passions and what you're doing in the workspace, it can be easy to go on and talk about it. And that is amazing. But I think it's also, there's room to always make sure that you're being concise in how you're presenting yourself, similar to what Sarah said. So yeah, always bringing yourself back to the question at hand and not letting imposter syndrome get too much of a foot in the door with any of your answers, because you're here for a reason. So those were sort of the two things that stood out a little bit to me, and that was kind of how I returned to the point at hand when I was putting the submission together.
Yeah, definitely. I went for an award last year, and it was just so hard to write down on a piece of paper, like sort of bigging yourself up and making yourself sound like bragging about things that you've done. But once you've got it down, it's a sense of achievement to look back at what you've actually done and reflect on it.
Absolutely.
So what was it that motivated you to submit a nomination for the Young Professional Awards?
So in Dakota, one of the really amazing things is they will actually put you forward for your nominations and submissions. So they're really amazing as a business at identifying, and spotlighting your work in the group. And that is one of the methods, that they take. So they actually put the nomination forward, and then obviously I worked on writing those, responses and answers to the question and things. But I think outside of that, I've spent 15 years in the hospitality industry. It's something that I'm really passionate about. There's no, to my knowledge, prerequisite for submitting a nomination. I think if you're passionate about the way that you're contributing in the professional space, how you interact with your team and your clients, then that should be your driving motivation towards. And I think something that should really come through in all of your answers and your questions. I think in terms of approach, it's obviously relative to the submission and your role and the position that you're approaching it from. But I think allow yourself a good amount of time to put it together. That might seem like really obvious advice, but not so much, because so much needs to be said. But to just give yourself a bit of time to reflect on your answers and how you are presenting yourself. Because there's many points that might come to you that wouldn't initially, when you're initially writing these answers. So I think approach was just sort of taking time to really consider and maximize how you are presenting yourself and your wins and your passions in the workplace. Just don't rush the process. Let it sort of flow organically over time, if you will, and gain feedback wherever you can as well.
Yeah, definitely. Great. So moving towards Paris, is there anything you would like to add to that? Or any
I think for me, similar to Stacey, it was like something that BNY do quite well at is putting people forward for nominations. I've got a very supportive manager and a very supportive mentor as well. And I think last year for me, I sort of reflected on the year and thought, wow, like there's actually quite a lot of things that I've achieved in this year. I could sort of feel that my career and just in myself, I'd grown so much. the jobs that I'd done previously, I probably just sort of was doing the job and going home sort of 9 to 5. But this job has just made me feel a lot more empowered to be involved with the local community, supporting our employees on the site. So a lot of things sort of made up the reasons why I thought, actually, yeah, maybe I am worthy of putting myself forward for a nomination. But it was definitely a push and a shove from my manager and my mentor as well. I think previous years I thought, again, like the sort of imposter mindset came in, and I thought I'm not good enough, or I've not got enough things to show off that I've achieved. But definitely last year when I reflected, I thought, yeah, I think my manager's probably right, and there is quite a few things that I could mention that would make me deserving of an award. And also I'd seen sort of colleagues go through that process previously. Teammates, one of my close friends won an award the year before. So I think that made me feel empowered as well, and sort of have that boost from people around you to put yourself forward.
Yeah, nice. So you've explained about obviously communicating your professional achievements, but how would you do that whilst maintaining humility in your submission?
I think this is a really hard one. And again, like I think everyone sort of mentioned, it's really difficult to get that perfect approach to an award. But for me, I think it would be, don't overwrite, don't waffle. I think you really need to get your passion and enthusiasm out there. And I think naturally that will just show your humility. When Sarah mentioned, obviously, that sort of like headline and the first paragraph is really important. I think that is really important. And also just the storytelling. For me, I think that's a great method. It's very personable. You're talking about your personal experience, and nobody can sort of take that away from you. So yeah, I think all in all, that makes your submission more personal, and you sort of start to see what your personality is like throughout that. But as long as you don't start waffling on, which something I can do sometimes. So yeah, I think those are the things from me.
Yeah, I find myself waffling on quite a bit sometimes when I get involved with things like this. So, Susie, from your experience as a judge, what common mistakes do nominees often make that detract from their submission?
Yeah, I'm probably going to repeat what Paris has just said really there. I think you've got to remember that the MiMA applications are obviously so popular, and we do get like a large number of submissions. So from a written application perspective, as like Sarah alluded to earlier, you kind of need to make sure that your application grabs the judge's attention. I think one of the biggest like faux pas, if you like, is to make it too waffly or too lengthy. So there is a word count. So, you know, that's guidance. I'd just say, you know, try and stick to that. Of course, it's like a real balancing act, isn't it? Because long waffly applications kind of stray away from the point. But then you need to make sure you've got enough information in there to back up your application. And I think it's more about things like making sure it's presented right in bullet points, and you know, so that you've got the key facts. You can get the key facts across. So really my advice would be to, when you make sure you spend time, like Stacey said, spend time doing it, crafting your application form well, try to be concise and think of the key points you're trying to get across. Use supporting evidence and make sure it reflects what you've achieved as an individual on top of how this contributes to the success of the team. I think a lot of the application forms refer to we did this and we did that. It's really important to demonstrate what you contributed individual, I think, to your team, to your business. And then I think sometimes as well, it's really great to include like facts and figures as well, to show, like, to demonstrate like where you've overachieved on projects or where you smashed a goal, because they really validate your entry. And I think it was Paris that mentioned, I've been Stacey before, like ask your line manager or like a trusted colleague just to have a quick read through your application, and ask for honest feedback, and don't be worried about any negative comments. They're trying to help you. Just that I think for me, that's really key. Just get someone to proofread it really.
Just circling back onto that then, and going towards Stacey. Did you receive feedback from your award nomination? And if so, how did it help shape the final result?
Absolutely. I did, yeah. And I think, you know, it's really probably valuable to get feedback from someone, line manager, mentor, etc., trusted person within the business. Get that feedback from them, particularly someone who's been in the business obviously longer than you have, because they can contextualize your impact. You know, they can say, this is what it was like before you, this is what it is like since you've joined. And that will really help your submission. You know, they can help get you out of your head a little bit. Like I said before, I can be a little bit of an overthinker, these kinds of things. It's someone who can kind of bring you back down to earth a little bit, and also make sure that, you know, they aren't experiencing your imposter syndrome. They can sort of champion you a little bit more to be like, actually, no, there is more room for you to shout about yourself here. Actually, you did more than that, or you're underselling this, or things like that. And I think having that feedback is probably imperative really to the submission, because, you know, from a lot of different angles, like Susie's saying, positive criticism or critique that will help improve it, or preventing you from holding yourself back a little bit too much with the humility side of things, etc., or helping bring you back to the point if you've maybe veered off a little bit. It's really, really valuable to get that feedback, whatever it may be. So I definitely did do that, and it really did help me realign myself and make sure that I knew I was going in the right direction with these answers. So I would definitely encourage anyone writing a submission to do that as well.
Thanks, Stacey. Susie, is there anything to build on that? How nominees can put their application across in sort of a bit more of a compelling way, and building on that, what Stacey just mentioned?
Yeah, I think what's key is when nominees can show like the personal development and commitment to continuous learning in a compelling way. So I'd say around that, like be genuine, like, you know, show your passion and enthusiasm and your ambition as well. And I think if you're passionate about what you do and what you've achieved, and also what you're aiming to achieve, this really shines through in your application form. Definitely mention like any relevant certifications, you know, like courses or workshops or that you've completed, anything that can back up your personal development and commitment to future learning. Describe like projects or initiative you led, and you know, just be, you know, don't be afraid to use like life examples, and be honest about your personal growth stories. And I think one of the key things for me is like not to be too corporate in a way. When you're writing your application form or when you're actually doing your interview, I think the interviews, when you get to interview stage, I think we really enjoy the interviews of the candidates who are confident in their abilities and achievements, but they kind of have that humility and growth mindset to appreciate that they're not the finished article, and they've got like future ambitions. And that's really exciting for us, because, you know, to see what they are looking to achieve in the future. So don't be embarrassed or shy, I think is the key as well. You know, it's like Stacey said, it's a really good chance for you to be recognised for everything you've done. So we've all got that horrible imposter syndrome. We all hate talking about ourselves and bigging ourselves up, but at the end of the day, most people have been nominated for these. So it's a great example to show everybody what you've achieved, and also how ambitious you are for the future.
Thanks, Susie. Just switching back to the perspective of the nominees and the award winners. I'll move to Paris for this one. Can you go through any strategies that you used whilst crafting your nomination, and ones that you perhaps think contributed to the success of winning the actual award?
Yeah, I think there was a few things that I did. So firstly, I probably looked at my achievements, as I mentioned before, and I sort of wrote everything down that I'd done. And this is something that we sort of do end of year anyway. And then I thought about the award that I was nominating myself for, and how do my achievements sort of tie back to that award specifically. The award that I won was a new award this year as well, so I suppose it was a little bit more difficult to know exactly what the judges were going to be looking for, but I just listed everything that I thought would be relevant, but not just sort of listed as in I've done this, this and this. It was more like the impact that some of those had. And I broke it down in sort of like the situation, task, action, result. I think that's a really good method to use when you're trying to sort of tell a story. You sort of keep it to the point, so you can sort of say, what it was that you wanted to achieve, what the task was. And for me, it was something that I'd built internally. And the result of that was sort of like increased in engagement, increasing volunteering hours across our site. And the impact of that was the support that we were able to give some of our charity partners within our local community, which for me is something that I'm really passionate about. So I really wanted to get that across in my nomination, and other things that I'd done along the way, maybe to support that, working with people internally as well. So I think it's just, again, that storytelling for me, but thinking about how that whole piece relates back to the specific award that you're nominating yourself for. And just simple things like the structure of it. So obviously think about your paragraphs, think about, it sounds like really silly, but think about your grammar, your spelling, the spacing. And yeah, just going back to what Stacey and Susie said as well, getting that feedback. I think that's really important as well. Use your peers, use your manager, use your mentor. You know, for me, I had a friend that had gone through it the year before, so I asked her to sort of sense check it before I submitted it. And I think that's really important as well. I think people, when you're submitting an award, can be a bit afraid to reach out and ask for that support, but it's something that's really important. There's somebody that's been there and done it already, then why not reach out and get that support from them? So there are a few of the things that I sort of thought about when I was submitting my award.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Paris. We'll move on to Susie now. We'll move on to Sarah. How important is it for nominees to demonstrate a balance between technical achievement and soft skills in their strategy?
Yes, yeah, it certainly is. The balance is there. They're probably hand in hand, as everybody said. I think quite an important word I would say would be how you champion something, how you were the champion with your colleagues, with the project, within the organisation. As mentioned before, the impact. So I think we touched on it there. Certainly Paris did, about the more rounded. I think the soft skills might go under the category of a more rounded individual. So if you've got a particular personal focus that you're driven in a specific area, diversity or CPD or charity or community, it goes down to championing a contribution, I think, as well. So I think the soft skills are the personal story, perhaps the storytelling, the authentic you, which is really, really interesting to read for sure, and very much what makes you different and unique in the organisation. In terms of the sort of more technical achievements, I think completely agree. I do think it's good to quantify those, in be it numbers, or it's not necessarily numbers, but impact, however that translates for your specific individual case. Do quantify it. If I know we talked about imposter syndrome, and it seems like you're making claims. I'm from a marketing background, so obviously if you make a claim or a statement, you need to back it up with evidence and proof. So perhaps bear that in mind, that you've said something, but rather than just tell, show as well. So to quantify it. Just a couple of practical points that occurred to me as the other guests were talking. The length, I know there's a word count, but believe it or not, we either get a paragraph or 4 pages. And sometimes people hit on a sweet spot and you're quite relieved, because it's a lot to read. It does take hours. And that succinctness is important. So, if you were to mind map or put categories around and then think, yes, what do I want to say in this category? What's the killer statement that references this subject matter, this point I'd like to make in this paragraph? And I do think, as we talked about, getting feedback from colleagues, leaders, supportive leaders were mentioned. I mean, I don't think there's any reason why you can't put a quote from them in verbatim, because it's quite hard for you to say, my immediate manager said so and so of me, it's quite hard. I'd be perfectly happy to say, this is what my immediate manager or colleague said of me. I think that's a good way of doing the sort of the third party PR approach that I mentioned earlier.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I think it'd be nice for the viewers listening today to get a bit of an idea of a specific example of one that maybe stood out, so they can resonate with that a little bit. So, were there any that left a lasting impression, and if so, what made it very memorable?
There was one of the winners in one of my categories last year demonstrated how it was a marketing award. But it was demonstrating how she'd created a complete turnaround in her organisation. And it actually went into different areas beyond her remit. She came up with an audacious rebrand of the business. Not the company name and not the main brand, but you could call it a visual identity beneath the main brand. And she went to the board, and it was quite audacious. It was for the business to be more penguin. Won't go into why that was relevant or anything, but the board embraced it, and she was able to create a buzz around the organisation. And they'd had a few recruitment issues, I think, previously, and a few key members of the team had left. And the whole repositioning of the business in a branding sense, which was within her remit as a marketing manager, brought in, I think it was something like 19 new people. I think only 2 of them through a recruitment agency. So bizarrely, she had taken her role not just to do a job every day well, but to completely create a positive impact on the future of the business. And that really stood out to me because, one, the brand was, the idea was audacious to start with. B, it worked. She proved it worked. And C, it had a massive impact to the morale, the culture, the recruitment of the whole business. So, that was a really interesting one for me. I mean, I literally have remembered that from a year ago. And, I think pretty much paraphrased what the interview was like there. So, yeah, just again, how you champion something, how you made an impact. And it could be on your colleagues, it could be on your client, it could be a project. It's not always in numbers. It can be, morale, transformation. So sort of look, no, I'll probably say no holds barred there, really. It isn't, it is quite wide how the impact can manifest itself.
Just to thanks very much, Sarah. Sounds like an excellent award nomination. Just to get this sort of other side of that angle, I'll move on to Stacey. Within your submission, what elements of that do you think resonated with the judges?
I think it comes back to the point again that's been concurrent is, that unique passion within your respective field or role, whatever that looks like, however that comes through. For me, mine was very much bringing awareness to sales as a key element in hospitality. So I moved out of operations and into hospitality sales about 8 years ago. So I had a bit of a hybrid view, if you will, of sales within the hospitality function. I could understand it from operational side. I could understand it from the side that I'd moved into. And I think it highlighted a little bit of an opportunity and a bit of a gap to make everyone feel like a salesperson in hospitality, because sales can often operate as a little bit of an island in hospitality. And, I didn't want people to feel like it was just these people behind a laptop and the occasional bit of communication and things like that. I really wanted to think of innovative ways to integrate everyone into the function, everyone into the operation and what we do. So it became a little bit of a target of mine, and how we consider new ways to do that. So incentives, training, creating new methods of communicating internally, celebrating wins with everyone, sort of bridging that gap that I'd seen since, starting in hospitality at 15 years old to my current day, in my career. trying to figure out ways and use my experience to let everyone feel involved, you know, so developing training methods and things. And you would see, you know, a real engagement, and you would see, you know, a lot of people from all different varieties and all different parts of the operation, be it kitchen, front of house, food and beverage, concierge, who were actually really, really excited and really keen to be part of it, but maybe didn't feel like it was something that was necessarily accessible to them. So that became a huge focus of mine, and something that Dakota drove really, really well. You know, I've been with the business for approaching 3 years now, and I think they really helped me with the resource and the tools to expand on that. And I have a really amazing team of mentors and leaders as well who helped me drive that forward. So that was something, as you can see, that kind of came out in the interview and in the submission as a real passion project within my role. And I think if you can identify that in your respective role, you probably already know what it is as I'm talking about mine. But I think really highlight that. That is the thing that, you know, makes it unique and makes it stand out. Like Sarah said, we can all talk about our working day, and, you know, we can add the quantifiables and the figures, and those are really important too. But I think if there is, you know, there's a reason that you're on the call today, and it's, you know, because there is an area of, you know, passion in what you're doing, and let that sort of come through. And I think that's probably what stood out in my nomination and my interview. I like to think so, but yeah.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Stacey. Just sticking with the sort of award winners side, and on a similar line of question, going over to Paris, how did you ensure that your nomination stood out from the other candidates, obviously in such a competitive field that you're in?
Yeah, I think, again, just to echo the passion piece, I think that's where you stand out from others initially. But yeah, just following on from what I said around crafting my nomination, looking at my achievements, I thought about what it was that stood out. And again, coming back to that impact piece, there was a lot of great things that I was doing outside of my sort of day-to-day role. But again, there was one sort of initial project that came to mind straight away where I could sort of really talk about what I'd done, who I'd sort of influenced, who I'd worked with, even some of the challenges that I'd faced as well. It wasn't all smooth sailing. And I think that's really important that, you know, when you may be doing a project or running a project or running something that is not always straightforward, and it's okay to say, actually, there was a bit of a struggle there, or, you know, that was a challenge. So I sort of had to, you know, there might have been a bit of a bump in the road. So I did this to help me with that. And also make sure that you mention the little things like getting the feedback from people, involving other people. So I think that's where I suppose I probably it helped my nomination to stand out, because I mentioned all of those things. And again, everyone is clearly doing the job really well. If you're sort of looking at putting a nomination forward for yourself, or a manager is, but it's getting that sort of passion across, showing the skills that you might have learned in that process, and showing your growth as well. Because for me, like, yeah, probably 2 years ago, I never would have dreamt that I'd have been putting myself up for an award. So it's just, yeah, showing that how you've sort of grown from that in your role or within whatever it is that you've been working on. And just make sure that you come across as like that personable person. And I think if you show that sort of uniqueness within whatever you're doing, everyone will have their own story to tell. You know, mine and Stacey's, we're similar in sort of the stories, but also very different in what, you know, we've done. And I'm sure our approaches will probably be different as well. But just as well, just looking at the nomination and thinking, if you were a judge, what would excite you about that nomination? Why would they want to pick you over somebody else? Because there's loads of great people within Manchester, but what is it that's going to make your nomination stand out against one of your peers, or, you know, somebody at another company? So all of those things will hopefully help you to stand out. And again, hopefully that's what helped mine to stand out. And just putting all of those little bits of tips together about, you know, the structure, the length, just the wording that you're using. You know, don't be using ChatGPT to write your nomination, because you're not really going to get your personal self in there. So yeah, just again, you know, we're all human, so just get that human element in there, and I think that really helps. And I think, you know, as Sarah and Susie have mentioned, you know, some of the great tips that they've given is just all about that passion and the excitement that you bring into your nomination.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Paris. I'm just going to switch it back to the judges now. And so, Susie, what about someone who's not exactly sure of how to effectively communicate their strengths? Obviously, they want to stand out from the competition, but maybe they're a bit nervous, or they're not sure how to effectively do that.
Yeah, I think Paris has covered a lot of it already, actually. I think really you've got to know what your key strengths are at first and what you're actually trying to get across. So I think before even starting to put pen to paper, you kind of need to do a mind map of what am I really good at, what are my key strengths. But then the key thing is, I think, asking other people what they think you've achieved this year and what stands out for them, because it might be stuff that, you know, you've not even thought, and that might be something that sets you apart from other people. So I think that's getting that database first, and then cherry picking those strengths and popping them into the application form. But I do really think that's important, because when you speak to other people, that's kind of when you realise what else you've done and what impact you have made on them or on the team. And then it's everything around what Paris just said then about, you know, don't use ChatGPT. It's got to be the passion. You've got to have your own personal element in there and your own passion and your own way of presenting. So I think that's the real key. But make sure you ask for feedback. What do other people think your key strengths are? And then when you actually, I know we've said it before, but when you write in the application form, like, be critical around like the length, presentation, spelling, grammar, because there's nothing worse than reading an application form that's got, you know, spelling mistakes in, because that's just an easy win, really, isn't it? Just to make sure it's presented nicely and it actually reads correctly and there's no errors. So be really critical around that. And, you know, and my job share, Amanda always talks about the power of three. The power of three, having three examples, and I think that's like a really useful strategy to make your responses like kind of more compelling and memorable. So that's just a little tip from her. But yeah, just be positive and confident. I think that, you know, that positivity can really like leave a lasting impression within your application.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Susie. So I'm going to open up to question and answers from the viewers in a second. So have your questions ready if you do have anything to ask the judges or the nominees. But I'm just going to ask everyone just a quick fire answer, maybe a minute each or something. What's a final wrap-up piece of advice that you would offer to anyone preparing to submit a nomination for the next awards? We'll start with Stacey.
Yeah, I mean, like everything that, you know, Paris has given some amazing advice, and Susie and Sarah as well. So much of that, you know, is important to take away. I think for me, just from my own personal experience, my advice would be, you know, don't stand in your own way. Don't allow any imposter syndrome or anything to that effect to really hold back, you know, the work that you've put in up until this point. You know, don't allow it to sort of subdue all the work and passion that you've shown that's got you to this submission. You know, no one is doing what you're doing in exactly the manner that you're doing it. So I think that authenticity deserves to be showcased, and you should remind yourself of that throughout the process. You know, you're on the call today because you're passionate about what you're doing and how you contribute to the space that you're in. So allow that to come through in your answers. Let that be concurrent throughout. You know, we've come back to it so many times throughout the call of passion being the thing that gives it an authentic feel, because it's unique to you. No one else is experiencing that in the way that you are. So really, really let that be the heartbeat of the submission, why you're passionate about what you're doing exactly, and everything else is also so important. You know, being concise, mind mapping things, considering your strengths, speaking to your peers and your colleagues and your mentors about what they think they are. Because, you know, we obviously all have a bit of a different perception of ourselves comparatively to how other people can see us, and that can be a really positive thing, to make sure that we get that viewpoint as well, because that can be that little boost that you need. So yeah, my advice is that, coming from someone who is an imposter syndrome struggler, and I was fortunate enough to win. It helped, combat that a little bit. But don't stand in your own way. You're here for a reason, and whatever the outcome of the submission, you've worked incredibly hard to get to where you are. So just remind yourself of that when you are writing a submission, for sure.
Thanks, Stacey. Sarah, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, what really came across with what Stacey said then was that emotion that runs through everything, because with storytelling, with emotion, we can really feel it, and that's the connection you need to get with the judge. You're creating a connection through emotion, through the passion. But a thing that I just thought, it's not really a nomination writing tool, but if anybody's been to the awards before or not been to the awards before, you should probably Google the images from the evening, because it's a major evening. I mean, 500, 600 people last year. It's a very glittering occasion. And if you were to picture yourself, your name being read out, and you going up on stage, and you're leaving your table of 10 with all your colleagues and your leadership team, and not just that, but the whole room of all those people looking at you, and potential employers for the future, potential anything for the future. It's so worthwhile this evening. It's an absolute glittering showcase. The room is full of pride and support, and the impact on your career will be high. So, a bit like a sprinter picturing the finish line, if you can visualize yourself as you write it, that's the sort of importance and interest and level perhaps that would come through. And I guess we've always said how you deserve to be on stage, and how you need to go up there and beat what will be a very fierce, well, not fierce, that's not the right word, that sounds a bit foreboding, but a very high standard in your category. The standard is colossal. It makes you feel proud reading them, because the standard of young professionals in Manchester is colossal. It's really wonderful to read. So very much a privilege from a judge's point of view, and I can't stress how worthwhile the whole event and the submission will be.
Yeah, it certainly will be. Just finally as well, Susie, anything to add to that?
I think I just reiterate everything Stacey and Sarah said, and if you've been nominated, just enjoy it, because how amazing is that? And like Sarah said, it's such an amazing night, and yeah, you should be really proud. And I think it definitely is when it gets to interview stage. I think where people really do shine as well is where they show their passion for Manchester, because it's Made in Manchester Awards. So their passion for Manchester and the Northwest, and how they're going to help the Northwest succeed, kind of thing. I think that's really important as well. But it all comes down to that passion, commitment, energy, desire to move things forward. So yeah, good luck to everyone. I'm sure you'll all be brilliant.
Thanks. And finally, Paris, anything to add? I know we've covered a lot of things there, but yeah.
I think just to echo everything that everyone else has said, really, just be yourself. Don't be afraid to push yourself a little bit. It can feel a little bit uncomfortable to, push yourself out of your comfort zone. Even just before the interview process for me, I was really nervous, and I remember sort of getting on the call, and there was like 5 people staring at me that I'd never met before, and I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. And I remember Alistair was sort of leading the panel of interviews, and he said, it's fine, like just be yourself, just take a deep breath, this is all about you. It's not, you're not being interviewed for a work job or something. It's just, you just want to show your passion and show what you've achieved. And all the judges were really great. They were really supportive, and there was probably a few points that I nearly missed off, but the judges really helped me to get all my points across, and anything that I might have sort of missed as I was waffling on in my answers, they helped to sort of drag that out of me, which I think was really, really good, and I felt really good after the interview actually, even though like it was really quick. I was like, yeah, like I think I've done a good job there, you know, I think I've got my passion across. And so yeah, just be yourself and show that, you know, you might have had challenges along the way. You know, you might have been scared, you might have not thought that you were worthy of putting yourself forward, but actually, if you look at, you know, the people around you, the support that you've got, lean on those, lean on your peers, lean on your manager, your mentors, and also like I'd be more than happy to give any advice to anybody that was, you know, looking to nominate themselves and might need a little bit of help, you know. So yeah, feel free to, you know, reach out, and I know Stacey had mentioned that too. So yeah, feel free to lean on us and ask for that support as well. But yeah, just a massive good luck to anybody that's putting themselves forward. And like Sarah said, it's an amazing night. So if you get there, it'll be amazing.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Paris. I'm just going to open it up now to anyone who's viewing. If there's any questions from anyone. Just there we go. Right, so we've had one through. I'll read it out, and anyone who thinks they have an answer, let's just sort of shout for it and have a bit of a battle for it. So how much weight does the panel attach to data and analytics in a submission?
I would say yes, balanced, as we said, with the more rounded skills and the passion. But yes, I think if you can quantify it with metrics, with analytics, with certainly when I've judged the marketing awards, that is quite quantifiable. And I know that to quote Dakota, your colleague won the Creative Marketing Award a number of years ago, and her numbers were transformational. It really was like, wow, you know. So certainly, if they leave you feeling that's significant, then and it's the turnaround, isn't it? The turnaround position of anything. So yes, I would say quantify it with analytics, metrics, numbers, KPIs, whatever is relevant to your particular award title.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd say if the if the numbers are stand out, then definitely add them. But then they're not, like we take everything in the round. So all the kind of things, the soft skills that you've been doing, or anything that's non-quantifiable, is also very important as well. So it's exactly what Sarah said. It's a bit of a balance.
Great. Do we have any extra questions? If anyone has them, just pop them in the chat. I think possibly just opposing that a little bit as well. Like, it doesn't have to be quantified by numbers. I think maybe sometimes, like if you have done achievable things and there's no sort of exact data that you can put down, like it's not to stress about. Like people can still just submit an application the exact same.
I do agree. If you can, you can. And if your field just doesn't operate that way, then yeah, just describe it. Just describe the difference, maybe.
Can I chip in there, Herbie?
Yeah, of course.
Just to say, so I'm Rachel Tetlow. I am from Pro Manchester. And I just wanted to say, just to emphasize really, that everyone is absolutely behind you and wanting to see you shine. They're not wanting to catch you out in any way at all. If you've got data, amazing. If you haven't, still amazing. You can still, everyone just wants to see you shine. Honestly, it's one of my favorite, the interview day is one of my favorite days of the year in Pro Manchester. It is so inspiring, and as everybody said already, the standards are high, but it's a real kind of celebration of young talent in the city, and everyone just it is a positive place to be. Everyone wants to see you at your best and see you shine. So yeah, good luck to you all.
Definitely.
Good luck. Just go for it.
Yeah. So I just want to thank. I don't think we're getting any more questions, so we'll wrap up now. Just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's attended and anyone who's watching after this recorded. A massive thank you to the panel. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to do this with us today. Some excellent answers there and great insight for people who are writing nominations. It's really appreciated. A thank you to Pro Manchester as well for putting on the event and all the sort of background planning that goes on with this, and obviously the planning for MiMA. It's going to be a great event. We look forward to seeing you all there, and hopefully some winners in the chat, or certainly nominated. Just a passing comment on Future Pro side of things. We have an event tonight. This is the 26th of September. It's a feast club in Manchester, if you fancy coming down. There's also an event on the 31st of October, which is our spooky social, which is going to be our sort of Halloween event coming up soon. So yeah, if anyone wants to attend that, it's on the website. Check it out. Appreciate anyone who comes down. The great events, good networking opportunities, and yeah, some drinks and food as well. But yeah, for now, that'll be everything. Again, thank you to everyone for coming, and I hope you all have a great rest of your week and a good weekend.
Thanks everyone, and just from me on behalf of Pro Manchester, thanks to Herbie for being such a great host today. Thanks to all of you for your brilliant advice. See you tonight, Herbie, at the Feast Club.
See you there.
And hope to see
Thanks, all.
you at MiMA.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck, everyone.
Bye.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
See you later.